Hey now, and welcome to episode 51 of the Help Find the Others podcast. If you've been here all along, welcome back. But if this is your first time listening to us, welcome. I'm your host, Rubin, and as always, my co-host Stahn is on the line. How you doing today, man?
Good. What's up with you, man?
Nothing much, man. Same old, obviously, just like everyone else. But I'm getting along good. I mean, I'm really trying to make this all positive, and I obviously understand the serious implications going forward for all different aspects of society. But I'm trying to make sure that I fall on the positive side of that line, and obviously trying to inspire as many people as I can to follow suit. So how are you doing? You're in a more urban scenario, and I think you're probably actually a little more at danger of this whole situation. But how are you hanging in there?
It's been fine, honestly. We've been just trying to keep it fun at home and trying to keep our minds off the fact that we are going through this as like a world. And I've only had, I think, like 2 or 3 times where anxiety gets me, and you gotta calm yourself down with breathing or whatever. I've only had that happen like 3 times during this, so I think that's pretty good for where I'm at. But yeah, just kind of settling into the routine, and even if the routine is video games and enjoying a movie or a show, then that's the routine, and it's just really about enjoying the moment more than getting down if you don't have a productive day or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I do realize, and I'm extremely grateful that I still get to leave and go and work and get out in the woods and do all the things that I enjoy doing. So I understand that when I say I'm trying to stay positive and having a good time, like I understand that's a lot easier for me than a lot of other people, And I mean, the weather's been kind of crappy here, but
Same.
When it's
we
nice.
Got 4 inches last night.
Oh wow, dude!
Yeah,
yeah. It's cold here, but there was snow in the air, but it didn't stick.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's nuts. But yeah, I mean, I just getting the kids outside and playing with our, we're not being totally socially distant. Like our kids are playing with our immediate neighbors, and we're just we've considered ourselves an extended family, and so when the weather's nice, like the kids, aren't going as crazy and they're not totally on screens and all that stuff. But
that's probably brought you closer to your neighbors, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we were already pretty close. We do a lot together and everything. Like they don't really ever go on vacation or anything, and like they don't really have a lot of friends and stuff like that. So it's like when we have like cookouts or whatever, it's like we invite them over. So they're,
gotcha.
We're kind of best friends with them anyway. So it just made sense with like, and they both aren't leaving. Like my neighbor's working from home, and so I'm the only one that leaves the house really, other than to go to the grocery store and stuff like that. So we figure it's pretty safe to let the kids play, and we're not endangering anyone. So
man.
Yeah. But so one thing I wanted to talk about, and I think we'll probably label this video that, is a hashtag going on in the psychedelic YouTube community of hashtag London Real Army. And so, I guess I don't really agree with like all these like calling like fans of stuff armies, but I don't know what else you would call it. So, we're just going to stick with that hashtag. But if anyone doesn't know London Real, I mean, if you watch YouTube and search ayahuasca or mushrooms or Dennis McKenna, like the videos from this channel are, and they have 1.5 million subscribers or something, I think, or almost 2 million or something. So people know who London Real is, and they're I think his name's Brian Rose, is the guy who started it, and honestly, I think it's been about 10 years or so. I think I read they haven't been on my radar. I think the first time I saw any of his videos was when he interviewed Dennis McKenna, talking about 5 grams in Silent Darkness or Heroic Dose or whatever, and then just followed more of that. He just had Wim Hof on. There's a lot of like parallels between what we talk about and their channel, but they're just obviously much more professional and polished and been at it longer. But I do feel that we're on the same radar, and I definitely want to do whatever I can to support, him getting his message out. And so the hashtag is about, if anyone, missed this scenario that went on, is that he had a video on YouTube talking with David Icke.
It was a live stream too, wasn't it?
It was a live stream. And so I missed the live stream, but it got pulled in the middle of the live stream and deleted from, and I think they recorded the rest of the video, and then he tried to upload the video and they deleted the video. Vimeo deleted anyone uploading it. I even saw Dropbox, which I didn't know they could edit the content used in Dropbox. But if you were sending that video to people on Dropbox, your account was suspended, and they would delete the video. And then it ended up LinkedIn deleted Brian's personal profile and the London Real profile. Deleted that from LinkedIn. And this all happened in the past week, maybe 2 weeks. I can't remember when that live stream was.
Yeah.
But it's just it's this deplatforming stuff that is becoming so rampant, to where it's YouTube is a tool. It's obviously helped us in getting our message out. It helps me occupy my kids for hours when I want to do whatever. There's lots of good things. I've learned how to do maintenance around my house from YouTube. Like, YouTube's a great thing, but they've transitioned over time into being a political, like, maybe not propaganda, not the word, but like a political filter of our media. And it's just pretty ridiculous. Like, when Alex Jones got pulled off and InfoWars got pulled off of everything, I don't agree with what Alex Jones says about a lot of things, but I fully think that he should be able to say whatever he wants and, have free speech and free media to do so. And the other thing, especially with Alex Jones, is I didn't watch that he ever put out. I just kind of knew him, like someone would like link something and it's like crazy man yelling and it's like, haha, that's funny, whatever. But it wasn't until he was like deplatformed. And then I think that's when he was like on Joe Rogan. And then I was like, oh, well, I kind of like this guy. Yeah, he's crazy. He says a bunch of nonsense, but it's like, if 5% of what Alex Jones says is true, like that's huge. And David Icke is kind of the same way, where he's kind of the British Alex Jones, saying just as crazy shit. But for some reason, like I didn't, like I said, I didn't watch that video, but I've watched other David Icke videos. I did on the Google podcast thing, on London Real's channel on the Google podcast app, there was like the episode. And I don't know if it was a separate talk or if that's the talk that got pulled and banned. I did listen to that podcast, and he's saying the same crazy bullshit that Alex Jones says, but for some reason, because of his proper British accent, like it kind of seems a little bit more believable. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I actually didn't get into London Real until. Have you seen his content with Dorian Yates?
No, no.
Okay, so Dorian Yates is a former bodybuilder who like left the scene and kind of went to the holistic lifestyle and big in yoga, and he lives a quiet life, smokes a ton of weed, into psychedelics and all that. And I'm pretty sure that guy got like the first interview in a long time with him. So that's when I was exposed to it. And that was pretty early on, I think, in their evolution. And then, yeah, I saw somebody on the Discord server post actually the live stream link as it was live. And I didn't tune in. I was like, I'll watch this later. And then I saw that it got pulled. But I did see they've uploaded it now to their website locally. They've like locally hosted the video on their website, so that I don't think they're gonna get pulled off of that. But I haven't spent time to watch it. It was a pretty long conversation. So what was it about? Did you dive into it at all, or some pieces of it?
Yeah, and so I've been aware of David Icke and his philosophy. Well, I don't know. I mean, he would say it's facts. I would argue that.
Yeah.
But I'll call it a philosophy of the lizard people and like that the elite in the world are extraterrestrials, or I'm gonna murder the facts of his whole ideology because I haven't dug into it because I don't really believe it. But it's that these shape-shifting lizard people are the ones that are in control of all the corporations and politics and government and media, and that we're basically enslaved to. I don't even know what the end game is. Like if we're just working to create stuff that gives them money, or like they feed off our fear. I've heard him say. That part I don't know. It's kind of like the like step one, shapeshift into and take control of governments. Step two, enslave the population. Step three, question mark. Step four, profit. I don't know what the other part is. I think he does have that formulated, but regardless, I've just kind of heard him talk about that, and it's like, okay. But when you get past those specifics, what he tells people to do, to not be afraid, to focus on, realizing that you are in control of your situation, and our belief, us believing they have power over us gives them power over us. Like he says stuff like that, and it's all about like positivity and like awareness and consciousness and all these things. From like, whether it's lizard people or not, like let's fucking do that shit, right? Because it's the same thing like that we talk about. And because of that, because that's his message at the end, that's the what it all sums up to. I've watched it more, over the years. When I see a video, it's like, that sounds interesting or whatever, and I use the lizard people analogy as a joke a lot too, especially around when people are arguing politics. I like to get weird and say that they're all lizard people and whatever. But I don't really believe that because I've already gotten to that step of like, I don't believe they have power over me. Whether they're lizard people, whether they're just politicians, I think that everyone, I follow the idea that nobody knows shit, and everybody thinks they know more than they do, and presidents and congressmen and CEOs are no different. they just got more money because they're greedy, and that's what it all comes down to. Like when I think of elites, I think of them as parasites. They're obviously the same human race as everyone else, but they have a parasitic mindset. And what I mean by that is like, so, we say the top 1%, right? For like the how much wealth they have. When you look at the wealth inequality, they have more money, the top, I forgot the number, but there's like 10 people in the United States that have
Yeah, I
more
think it's like
money.
the top 1% have more than like the bottom 90, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And I consider them to be parasites, whether that is not of the human race or not. It doesn't matter, because it's a mindset to where, like, say I had an unlimited amount of money and I gave you $10,000 every day. At some point, you would say, "Hey, bro, I'm good." If that's
Yeah.
5 years, if it's 10 years, it doesn't matter. You'd be like, "Dude, like, stop giving me money, give it to someone else," or whatever. And I would say that 99% of humans, that is true. But the thing is, there's 1% that would never stop saying, they would be like, "Yeah, give me more. Hey, can you give me 15,000 going forward?" And I think there is only 1% of people that do that. But regardless, this video with London Real is the next step further. That whole crowd of believing that the elites are lizard people now believes that the coronavirus is not real. and I didn't realize this, but they actually don't believe that viruses and bacteria are real at all, and that germ theory is a complete lie created by the elites to hide the fact that they are ever increasing the technology to enslave us, and that all illness is caused by an imbalance in like energy fields. And so David Icke is now saying that the 5G towers that are going up are causing everyone to get sick, and they're saying, "Oh, it's SARS, or SARS, oh, it's MERS, oh, no, now it's COVID-19, all this stuff." And that it's all caused by this increase in technology, and they know that it will enslave most people, but it will kill some, and that they need to like have a reason to like say why people are dying, and they make up this idea of viruses and bacteria and stuff like that. So yeah. And by the way, I don't believe any of that is true.
Yeah.
but that's basically the first like 40 minutes of this video is him talking about that, him talking about the history of like he calls them technocrats, that like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, all these people that were at the forefront of technological advancement were all essentially elite lizard people, parts of the government, trying to enslave people and convince them that they need this technology and they need technology to advance, but it's actually what's killing the human race. And so that's like the first half of that talk. Yeah, and like and he's researched like the grandparents of all of these people and showed how they were involved. Like Bill Gates' grandpa was involved in eugenics and ended up being the one that created Planned Parenthood, which I don't know if that's true, because I've heard the same thing about people that don't like George Bush Jr. Like his grandpa started Planned Parenthood. So I don't know how many people started Planned Parenthood, but that seems to be one that anybody you don't like, you'd be like, his grandpa started Planned Parenthood, and whatever. But anyway, he does end the video like talking, like I was saying, like of like they feed off our fear, they need our fear, we can't be afraid. The less we believe in them, the less power they have. Mm-hmm. And that's very fucking true. Regardless of why you come to that conclusion, as long as that's the conclusion, I think like we can all have a common ground there. So if I don't believe in all the stuff that I just said that he says in the first half, but it doesn't turn me off of his message, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting to listen to. I'm not going to like listen to every podcast he's on or anything like that. And I wouldn't have listened to this one if they didn't ban it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the other thing with like the deplatforming is like you made him a rock star now. You know, most people would have listened to someone talk about lizard people and be like, whatever, dude. But now, you know, a million people have listened to that and shared it and downloaded it and are going to support London Real and David Icke. And like, you know, it's just weird. I don't understand why YouTube goes about it that way.
Yeah. Well, first thing, a little sidetrack. There's this website that you can go to that you can spend money like a billionaire. I don't know if you've seen it, but you pick a billionaire and then you can like, it's like yacht 30 million and like, and you see the numbers get removed from their wealth, and it's like so minuscule
Oh
that
yeah.
it just like blows your fucking mind. Like and poverty, and it's like that's the only one that puts them in the red by like 4,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
But but no, I've been noticing that with like the deplatforming, and like I think these figureheads get to a point where they have such a following. This is a conspiracy, but that gets to such a following that somebody steps in that's hosting their content and says, hey, you can't cross this bridge. You know, I was watching like Joe Rogan's podcast, and Joe Rogan started as a conspiracy guy, you know, getting stoned in the basement, talk about wherever the fuck you want to talk about type of guy. You know, that was his roots. And in his last episode, second to last episode with Tim Dillon, Tim Dillon brought up Bill Gates vaccinating just millions of people in, you know, less than or third world countries, and saying that he's helping them. And there's been problems with the vaccinations, and there's news articles about that. And yeah, it might be a small percentage or whatever, but Joe bashes him immediately, saying, well, what are the facts? Where's your source? You know, and it's like, why all of a sudden now that you're this big speaker and big figurehead that has a mass following, why are you applying these rules that didn't apply to you earlier on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. Whenever I hear, and maybe it's part of Joe thinking at this point, maybe his ego's blown up a little bit. I could understand that with how big it's gotten. So like he doesn't like being wrong. But I don't know. Like he talks occasionally about like leaving YouTube and like leaving podcasts and like starting his own media source. You know, that's totally uncontrolled, uncensored, unfiltered. But at the same time, he's filtering his guests. So it's I don't know, if there's a time for a decentralized network of media, I think it's now more than any time. Like I don't think limiting somebody's freedom of speech at all is a good look, you know, even if it's for corporate interests. Like I don't know how YouTube was probably making a ton of ad revenue off of Alex Jones's material. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just because they are giving him access to a public mass that, well, if he controls their opinion, he can change something, you know, change something that's currently going on in the regular system, the regular routine. Oh, we can't have that, so we gotta get him off of here. You know, not enough
Yeah.
people leave YouTube and go to alexjones.com to watch his live stream. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't know like what the solution is here, but because there are those decentralized media sources. It's just that no one's going to them. You know.
Yeah. And that's, you know, the thing is, it's like, well, it could probably help the fact if like someone from YouTube put out a video saying, "Hey, we took this stream down because of this. We think this," and whatever. Like that's the other thing is like without having any transparency and just saying like they broke community guidelines.
Yeah.
It's like okay, there's videos on there of people talking the exact same thing. It's just it wasn't on a channel that, like you said, that had, you know, almost
The
2 million.
audience.
You know, and so like is that it? Like they're like, okay, it's okay if your uncle is on Facebook telling people that you know, Hillary Clinton eats kids in the basement of a pizza place, but if someone's telling that to a million people, like we have to take them off. Like it doesn't it I they need to say that. They need to say like, hey, we you know, have a lot of ad revenue locked up in some of these videos, and you know, we need you to not be completely crazy. Like, I don't know. They need to say something. They need to have a human talk about why they do these things.
Well,
Instead of
a big part of why there's error in what they're doing is because Twitter, I don't know Facebook, but Twitter, YouTube, they're a lot of their strike system or takedown system or banning or like temporary bans, things like that, it's all algorithm based. So
right.
there's
So they
so much error in that.
they
And
get
for
like
some reason, the algorithm seems to be against freedom of speech somehow. Like it doesn't make
yeah.
sense.
Well, so okay, I guess that makes sense. I didn't think about that. That like some of this stuff is automatically taken down because of downvotes or
Yeah,
report,
yeah.
and so that did happen. Everyone thought that I don't know if you remember, like we were talking about it maybe a couple months ago. It was before all the COVID stuff, but all the like crypto YouTuber guys were getting
Yeah, yeah.
banned and suspended, and like so that ended up being that this shows how far crypto still needs to come as a community. But the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, the BSV crowd was like upset at anyone who talked shit about that coin or Craig Wright, and they were reporting all of the crypto YouTubers and saying that they were talking about harming children.
Oh,
And
okay.
so,
Yeah.
so they all got suspended for that. Like it wasn't this nefarious, like trying to, stop Bitcoin from rising up before the halving, or it was just a fucking infighting between morons that don't have anything better to do.
Yeah. But for
So,
every one of those, there's somebody that's trying to just speak their ideas that gets taken down
mhm.
because it's too much, like a David Icke or an Alex Jones. Like I'm surprised that YouTube still has up the Alex Jones Joe Rogan episode that he came on, and it was him, Eddie Bravo, and Joe, and it's the most viewed YouTube episode that he has. Like I'm surprised that's still up, but I think the media and YouTube and all their mainstream media has painted him to be this kook that like it's gotten to the point where like, oh, you trust him? Fuck that. Like you're stupid.
Yeah. Well, but I think you said it there. It's the most viewed Joe Rogan out of who's one of the most viewed YouTube channels. So, like, why take that episode down? You're making a lot of money off of it, and
Yeah,
Joe keeps them pretty sane throughout the whole thing.
yeah,
Like
that's
I
true. He
mean,
keeps them roped in.
he doesn't say much crazy. The thing that everyone hates um, Alex Jones about is that he said that Sandy Hook, never existed and wasn't a real thing. It was
Crisis
false
actors.
flag. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so which is nonsense as well. But he
and he's
kind of
gotten
like
sued for.
but he kind of like apologized for it on there too. So maybe that's why they keep that on there, because it's his public, like his only public apology or something.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know, but
he says he's
it
kind of
does come.
retarded.
Yeah.
That's his words. That's his words, not
Yeah.
mine.
But yeah, he that episode, like it makes a lot of ad revenue, and I think that's what it comes down to with YouTube and well, specifically YouTube, but Google articles and all that is the ad revenue. And that's another reason we need the decentralized kind of media platforms. Is that, and that's what, we I don't understand the technical aspect of how it works, and I know you don't either. But this is what cryptos, some are trying to take care of. The need to have ad revenue drives all media, but instead of using your currency at that point is your attention, you watching the commercials. Like they charge YouTube more to have the 10-second commercial you can't skip, and so they're buying your viewers attention. So if you switch that and there's no ads, but there's a cryptocurrency exchange to where you earn cryptocurrency by watching those ads. You earn cryptocurrency by watching the videos, and you can use that cryptocurrency to pay to not watch the videos. I know the basic attention token that works with the Brave browser. Like that's kind of how it works. Is like you won't see pop-ups, you won't see stuff like this if you're spending this currency. So they're getting their money that way, but it doesn't need to be revenue based. It doesn't need to be ad revenue based. And at that point, when you have a system like that, whether it's decentralized or not, if it's using some sort of currency for attention, you are creating a situation where the platform is beholden to the viewers and not the companies that are paying for the ads. And that's a big difference. Think about our government. Our government, they only need us for our votes during an election. The rest of the time, they are responsible for the needs and wants of the lobbyists that are going to pay money and get contracts and benefit from tax breaks and all of those things. If there was some way that we could break free of that situation, then the government would work for us. And so the media is kind of the same way. But the thing is, it's much easier to change that because it just changes what site you go to. Like you said, people can host these videos on their own site. And if people would just not be lazy and not need a one-stop shop for their media and would go seek out the privately hosted content, we would be much better off that way. But people are lazy, which is why I think there needs to be some way to, even if the stuff is privately hosted, if there was a YouTube that was decentralized, and I think there was like a DTube. I don't know if that still exists, but it was like a decentralized YouTube that worked off of cryptocurrency and was like a portal that routed, if you were looking for an Alex Jones video, it would come up like it was YouTube, but it was streaming off of his site. But it was a decentralized like platform. And then there's some sort of cryptocurrency token exchange, earning, spending wallet. There's something like that, which is the technicals that I don't understand. But I think as people become more comfortable in a digital currency world, that's kind of the thing. Is like it seems weird now, but like email seemed weird before, and that whole realm of like digital currency, I don't think in 5 years, I don't think will seem weird for most people. And I think that's how you make it work. That's how you overcome the ad revenue monsters. And we were joking before we started, but it's like as YouTube kicks off more and more fringe elements, you're going to chip away at the outside of the circle of like social of what society wants for media, and all that fringe element is going to go to somewhere that's censorship resistant, and YouTube's going to be left just being little kids watching people build stuff in Minecraft, and like they can put all their goddamn videos. Yeah, they can put all their goddamn campaign commercials up on that. Let the kids, watch that. But I really in one way they're like kind of forcing that to happen. But there's also part of me that's like, and it goes back to what David Icke says about 5G and lizard people is like, I don't believe it, but I believe you should question everything, right? And I don't know. There's a possibility that if I question this whole scenario that happened with London Real, is it some sort of marketing campaign to like really like up the people paying attention to them, to like have it taken down for a little bit and then be like, YouTube took my video down, and then now they're like, oh, you guys came together and they're putting it back up or whatever, so like it's possible that too, I guess. But it doesn't take away. That really sucks in that scenario, because then we're just totally a slave to YouTube at that point if they're manipulating us that way. But I think that it's more likely that they're just going to chip away the fringe and really push. We're going to all have some decentralized media hosting platform that is familiar enough that we won't even realize it's decentralized,
Yeah.
we'll be like, oh yeah, there's no ads. I wonder whether, or I can, I can just send them some of these, digital Fed coins, and I don't have to watch any ads. That's pretty cool, or whatever, I really see that happening, and that's aside from all the other stuff we talk about, Bitcoin and stuff, as far as crypto, what it will develop, it's going to develop into all of the streaming stuff we already do is going to incorporate crypto, and not Bitcoin, not like, fluctuating in price, just the usage. There will be a market fluctuating in price, but the earning and usage, I think it'll start happening and they don't even realize it.
Yeah. Well, that's the hope, is that the blockchain will be integrated with all these companies. I think a lot of companies are looking to it for it to be integrated. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I try to steer clear of falling into the trap of the hashtag London Real Army. Like, we had somebody on the Discord reach out to us about this, and like, hey, you should do an episode about it. And like, in part, it was reaffirming what we were already going to talk about, which is deplatforming. But I've fallen in that trap of, this is just a big marketing thing. It's just a multi-layer marketing scheme that comes back to them doing it. Like there's no denying that video being removed brought so many views to it, just like
Well, but I will say though that I didn't know what London Real was. Okay, so I knew what it was from, like, oh, I like this guy. He's on there talking. He's cool. I like this, and I've watched probably 20 interviews on YouTube. I didn't know what London Real was until this happened. Then I was like, well, okay, I want to support this guy because I hate the deplatforming stuff that happens, but do I support him? Like what is it? And I thought, honestly, because of how high quality, like, take the Dennis McKenna was the first time I watched him, and I thought that was like like London's or England's version of like 60 Minutes or something. It's like a nice studio, and it's like a 3-cam shoot, and the guy's wearing a suit and looks official and sounds smart, and he's talking to one of my heroes, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool that in England they have this on, their public broadcasting or whatever, And it wasn't until this happened that I started looking into it, and I didn't really. I mean, dude, the guys fucking started out like us, and built it up to over, a decade of being a high quality media production. And so I support that as well, because it's like, that's what I hope in 10 years you and I are looking back and seeing these videos and being like, man, remember that shitty quality when you're in your basement with fucking exercise ball next to you, and now we got a studio, so it's like I support that, I support him having an avenue to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess that's why.
But it's just like, it just sucks because nowadays, like, it's just impossible to know.
It is. Yeah.
Like, there's no knowing, because you could fake everything. You could fake a screenshot of the YouTube strike, copyright claim, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just impossible to know.
It is. And that's why.
But it's the ideas behind it, which is what we're talking about. It's the idea of, if it were to happen, and if this is all accurate, what he's claiming, then it's wrong. You can't do that to somebody. Like, you can't deplatform somebody for freedom of speech. But it's just like, I think what you were saying about the fringe being removed from YouTube, these things like YouTube, Twitter, all not just social media sites, but mainstream media as well, are all there to, they have their last fingertips on the narrative, the narrative of the consensus reality. And like, they're seeing that grip is slowly slipping. So they want to do everything they can to keep that narrative going. Especially with this, it's like, you got to stay in your house for a couple of months, like, and you can't leave. And in my state, all the state parks are closed. So it's like, wait, what? Like, how does this make sense? Like, why am I following this narrative still,
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what the current platforms are there to do, not all videos, like a guy playing Fortnite isn't a part of the narrative, but at the end of the day, the final strike or the extending of the hand is because of whether or not you are a part of this global idea that they're trying to put forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I mean, like we said, question everything, is like, are they deplatforming someone saying that 5G is to blame for people dying and not COVID? Are they trying to deplatform them so that people don't start following that and protest? Or are they deplatforming because that guy's right? Like,
it could go either way.
But the thing is, by doing it and not being transparent about why you took the live stream down, it creates that divide in thought where some people who were like, he's making a lot of sense, and then it gets taken down. Those people are gonna be like, well, fuck, he must be right then, like they took the video down because it was getting too close to the truth, and I again, and the government needs more transparency. Everybody just needs more transparency in their actions online, and the policy and all that, and it just creates more confusion and more distrust when you're not transparent about why you take someone off your platform or why you force someone to go in their house.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. We'll see, man. We'll see what happens. Like, if a month down the road he says, "Hey, we got the re-upload up," I'm just gonna be like, "Motherfucker," know?
Yeah. But I mean, I do. Again, to go back to what he was saying about 5G, I definitely don't believe that he's right on that. So it doesn't hurt me to, it's just kind of a conspiracy theory along the lines of flat Earth and anti-vaxxer kind of stuff. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's they'll have one component of it that's like, that is fishy, and then the rest of it's just like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, because for instance, for that theory that I was saying that they have, that there isn't such thing as viruses and bacteria, germs, the germ theory is wrong. Like, that requires like the most in-depth conspiracy that I've ever heard of. Like, that involves hundreds of years of research and text and medical advancements and just everything would have to have all been made up. Like, and just think about the implications of that. If you unravel that across the history of like medical advancement from the moment they realized, like, hey, if I wash my hands after I do surgery on this dead guy, before I help this lady give birth, she won't die. I wonder if there's something on my hands, and it's not just magic. Like, from that point on, everything was a lie, like in science, and I just don't believe that,
Yeah.
And then on
it's a hard sell.
right, and then if you like, every physicist I've heard talk about 5G, when people have been like, oh, 5G's bad, we need to not let them put up the towers, they haven't tested them, they're burning people, it burns people. Like, every physicist I've heard talk about it is like, that makes no sense. There is not enough energy in those radio waves to impact our DNA or cells at all. And I don't know enough about physics to be like, they're not wrong, but it's like, I'll believe the whole field of physics more than like someone that's like, well, look at this guy on this website, that says that 5G gives you, stops you from being able to breathe. He also says the Holocaust didn't happen. So, like, it's just like, it's hard for me to follow that logic when I hear people talk about that. Question everything, and if you believe that, that's fine. But as long as your outcome is what David Icke was talking about self independence and like not being afraid and stuff like that, well, fuck, if that's the path that it takes you to get to that, that's awesome. It's the same thing. Like, that's where everybody wants to get with psychedelics, with yoga, all this stuff. It's like it's just different paths. So if your path is believing in crazy bullshit that makes no scientific sense, and it revolves around a massive conspiracy that seems impossible to pull off, but you come to the same path as I got by taking 5 dry grams in silent darkness, well, good on you then. Like
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the outcome is peace, love, and understanding. Um, I think that's probably the hardest road to take,
Yeah.
to like believe in massive conspiracy theory. But uh, you know, I guess it's a path as well.
Yeah, man. No doubt.
Yeah. Um.
Yo, there's if you didn't have a topic to get into, I actually forgot to mention that we got a couple of text messages
Oh yeah.
um into the hotline.
Yep.
And for anybody that's listening that kind of wants to be a part of this, that is we have a hotline that you can leave voicemails, or in this case you could text in, and it's always available, and the number is 567-233-1335. It's just a Google number. It goes straight to voicemail, so like you don't have to leave your name or any of that. It's not like we're recording any of it. But we just got sent in some bullet points to talk about. Most of them Corona related. So bullet point 1 is just the mental impact of this, advice for people in isolation, and for people with family or roommates / partners. Second one was impact of the 24-hour news updates, and seeing how they've affected you and I, and advice to manage that, and the stress that it brings on, but still staying informed during that. And then meditation and exercise during the quarantine. And I think that's it for now. Oh, one last thing that he mentioned was how psychedelics pertain to the situation, and how the usage of them forces you to think global, and have a wide lens. But right now it's hard to think that way with how hyper local things are, and it's just like take care of your tribe situation. So I guess we could just start on the first two that kind of go back and back, which is the mental impact of this, and advice for people in isolation with roommates and partners, and then the impact of the 24-hour news updates and all those notifications on your phone and whatnot.
The impact of notifications, fucking unplug every day, 2 hours, nothing, no screen near you. You have to. That's the most, and I recommend, if you can, to go for a walk, go out in a park, stay away from people, be socially distant. That's fine, but like I work in the woods, so I'm away from people, but I also leave my phones in the truck. I don't want anything to do with them for 2 or 3 hours. Like seriously, I don't care if there's a nuclear missile headed and there's a Amber Alert, whatever. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. 10 years ago, you didn't need to be instantly notified about what was going on in the world. That's one thing that the the lizard people have pulled on us, I guess, is like that we think we need to know exactly what's going on all the time. We don't. All that's doing is creating that fear and that anxiety. And then as far as the mental toll on I forgot how you worded it, but the mental toll for people and how to get along with people that you're isolated with is to change your routine and to create a new thing you do with your kids, with your wife, with your girlfriend, whatever. Create a new thing, start something new, start learning a recipe, something else to grow from this, right? Everyone needs to come out of this scenario being better at something, knowing more about something, or having a new skill, or new direction. We need to come out of this. We can't just be like, oh, this sucks, I can't wait till it's back to normal, because it's not going to be normal when we come back out. It's going to be, if you're expecting normal, it's going to be worse. So if you're expecting better, it's going to be better. And so if you're expecting new, it's going to be better. I mean, And so I know one thing, and I wanted to talk to you about how it's going. But like my wife and I have started this like 21-day meditation challenge where it's all about abundance and money. But still, it's a good routine to get into.
Yeah.
Um, but you have a task to do, which has got me back into journaling. I looked; it was like 5 months since my last journal entry, and it was
Damn.
like something that was a big thing. But it's like once you get in a routine of not doing it, that's your new routine is not journaling. So it's got me back in the routine of journaling, and like I meditate 3 days a week, but now I'm doing it every night, and it's awesome. I think it's been awesome for my wife who never meditated. So it's like it's just a different routine. It's something we look forward to, and the kids go to sleep. It's like, okay, hey, did you do your task? I did too. Let's do meditation. So I know I've been sending them to you. Have you been doing the meditations?
I hadn't been doing the meditation part. I've been doing the journaling part and the intention setting aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean that's been great, and I think that's super important to the topic. But I don't know. I think Lupe Fiasco, who's a rapper, created a video at the beginning of all this, and it was a live stream, I believe, on Instagram, and he was saying, "Don't let this virus become you. Like, don't let it become a part of you. If you have it, it's there, but if it doesn't, don't let it become a part of you." And he was speaking like he was kind of woke, I guess you could say. But what he was trying to say was don't let this virus become a part of your anxiety. It's now become, I think, on a large scale, and maybe this is just me speaking, that's a part of mine, but it's a mental thing now. It's beyond, the flu symptoms. It's there's mental symptoms to it, to people that don't even have it. And the only way to kind of get away from that, I think, is the unplugging. And what I've been doing, which I hadn't for like the past 2 days, but before that I was on a good week streak, and I'm going to keep going now, is don't take my phone into the room at night when I go to bed. So that's like, half hour, no phone use. And in the morning, you can't check it until you've done your daily journaling. Right there, that's my 2 hours a day, and journaling on top of it. And you can add whatever else you want on top of that before getting to your phone, So if you want to have half an hour walk, make breakfast, make your coffee, you can create a laundry list of things, and then make the reward, I guess, if you want to call it a reward, the phone use,
Yeah.
and then that just compiles the time up of staying away from it all. And yeah, it's weird because it's just it's all going to be there. It's just the speed of which it's delivered to you. That's what you can control.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good way of combating it. I don't know. I just like stop caring, like I just don't watch the news, and I still get the news updates on my phone, but it's like I'm not watching the daily press conferences, or I'm not listening to my governor talk every day. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. Like what's that going to change in the long run?
It isn't, and I mean, you've said it all along. It's like I've made my philosophy, I've formed my life philosophy from not listening to what the fucking government says. So like, why am I all of a sudden gonna let their fear machine ramp me up into I have to listen to everything they say? It's like, obviously I don't want to get arrested because the law now is this, and I'm not doing that or whatever. But for the most part, like, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, I'm gonna die because the government said I might die. Like it's just, I don't know. So as far as being informed, staying informed and being disconnected, like we said, is being very particular about where you get your content from.
Yeah.
Like if it's a clickbait article that your friend sent, like, read the actual article and see, like, okay, so the title says this, but it only suggests that might be what's going on if you read the article, and it's like, we need to get away from clickbaity to article reading or headline reading, and it's one reason I mean, I listen to a ton of podcasts anyway, just because the way my job is. But it's like, now that we're at home, that's what you should be doing. Like, fucking listen to a podcast, lay down with your eyes closed, like, and listen to people talking about the topics you're interested in finding out more about. If it's the virus, like I've mentioned it and I will keep mentioning it. Listen to TWIV, the This Week in Virology.
Yep.
You know, they are not scared at all. Like it's interesting. They're confused, but they're not like, holy shit, this is going to be the end of the world. Like they're like talking about like, I can't wait till, you know, we get back to episodes about different viruses other than this, you know, and stuff like that. But it's like, listen to scientists, listen to uh, Joe Rogan, listen to, you know, people that are having a little different perspective than CNN or Fox News or whatever, you know. And I mean, it's funny, like I always kind of mention those, but it's like I know less and less people that actually watch TV news, but those are all the links that get shared,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's even worse. Like mainstream news is all beholden to its investors and its donators and whatever, to attract certain ad revenue. And that's the political bias in these channels. When we talk about it, they're not funded by the different political parties. It's just like they're trying to grab a different niche of the revenue market. And then so it's already biased and filtered when you're watching that news. But then when you get sent a clip that's just edited out and not in context, like that's the worst way to stay informed. And it's unfortunate because that's the majority of people's understanding of what's going on right now, is just a complete, the politically biased clips taken out of context, you know. So yeah, I don't know.
I think what you said about the forming new routines with your isolation partner is important, you know, whether it be like girlfriend, boyfriend, just friend, whatever. I think that's super important because that can keep things, that's you creating your new normal without even thinking about it, you know?
And you won't worry that you're not informed because you'll be like, I'm on a new thing anyway. I don't care what everyone else is arguing about, you know.
Yeah.
I got a new routine, because your routine can be, I got to be informed. I got to know what's going on. That can become your routine, and that fucking sucks. You're going to end up being a rat in a cage right now if that's what your routine is like, you know, I don't know who to believe. I got to take all in this information. It's like, or you just be like, actually, I'm going to learn how to knit, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. The other topic was these. I guess are kind of touched on it, but they're two separate. But just like the importance of meditation, exercising, we kind of touched on that. But then the last one was that he wrote here: psychedelics use tends to force you to think globally and with a wide lens. But right now, I think a lot of people are having a hard time thinking globally and getting overwhelmed. For me, I've focused much more locally recently, and that's had a massive impact on me. How do you maintain that global view during this? And then he also said that he loved your last video.
Oh, well, thank you. But so globally, I just kind of think that way. And well, actually, I don't even think globally. I think intergalactically, honestly. And well, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
like I'm always like thinking that I always have to bring myself down small, and that's been a silver lining in being isolated. And my fear of, you know, the restaurants and bars being shut down, and like always like independent, like one of my favorite restaurants, the owner lives in the next cul-de-sac over, and like we see her walk her dogs. Her husband drives his four-wheeler around our neighborhood and is giving my kids rides on, like I do not want to see that fucking restaurant go out of business because of this. And so it's like we're supporting them and taking takeout from them. Like I have not eaten at a corporate chain since this started. Like I've been really focused on the local restaurants and family businesses, and I tip like crazy, even though I'm getting carry out. You know, it's like that's really important for us to do, and that has nothing to do with psychedelics.
Yeah.
As far as, and I hope that becomes a new normal and a new habit, as everyone's like, you know, I don't miss Taco Bell. I don't miss TGI Fridays.
Yeah.
Like fuck them, you know, whatever. They're gonna be fine. They got a $50 million bailout, I'm sure, you know. They'll just, you know, cut hours and benefits for the employees when they bring them back, and then they'll call it good. So it's like I definitely I hope that's the new normal, is everyone just supports their local businesses and restaurants, and I hope there's not too much of an impact of stores that aren't open right now. Like, I hope they're able to open back up, like little gift shops or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, but as far as psychedelics, like, yeah, it's personally, it's been almost a year since I've tripped, and I really, as I want to reinvent myself, I really like feel like I need like a springboard trip to like really, start some new shit or whatever. But because of how weird the energy is and everything, like I and just because everyone else like that, I
Yeah.
can't do a large, meaningful watershed moment kind of trip. But I have really found microdosing to be very, very good right now. And I know that you said you had started microdosing as well during this
Hell
time,
yeah,
right?
man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Like, so to start this off though, I went on like a 4-day binge on kratom, which was fucking horrible decision by myself, but great for those 4 days. But you come down from that with like, you feel the shitty, like it's just not something you should do more than, I'd say, 2 days in a row. And even after like 2 days in a row, you kind of get like your nose starts running, and you pointed these out, like these symptoms out, and it's just small things that you notice, and you're like, wait, why am I congested right now? And nothing's changed except that you took kratom, 2 days in a row. So I did the 4 days in a row, and that was like multiple times a day and everything. It was just bad. Like I said, during it was great, but afterwards, like the come down was just like shit, and like, dude, I was in bad depression, and like, just thinking, and like being in depressed during this, horrible mistake. You don't want like self-induced depression during
Mm-mm.
this, or any
Yeah.
self-induced anxiety. Stay
Yeah.
fuck away from that. So I went through that, and like, and it just lingered, man. Like that feeling lingered of like, man, what, like this is all pointless. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, and then you're looking at all the bad things as reaffirmations to your mood, and it's just not a good vibe. And I actually went home, and we had a socially distant Easter in our garage, and everybody was like 10 feet away from each other or whatever. But my brother was telling me that he's been microdosing acid, and uh, doing a little bit more than microdosing. He said some days, I'd take 50 UGs and just get into that headspace. And I was just like, why have I not thought about that as the remedy to my situation, or at least trying it? So the next day I got home, and I tried zero point 0.07 grams of psilocybin mushrooms, and dude, the mood lift, like it's so crazy that you can see the mood lift like that
Yeah.
in a microdose. Even like you could see those negative thoughts and all that. It's like, oh, those are gone now. Like, it's remarkable, really.
Mm-hmm.
So now what I've just been implemented is like a modified Fadiman protocol, where it's like 1 day on, and then 2 days I still can feel it in my system. I don't have the day after the two where I'm like recording or anything like that. I'm just trying to record as I go, and then I have it that day. So the day that's supposed to be off, I just have it. And yeah, I mean, it's been great. It's a huge motivator during this time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still able to get into flow states where I'm doing music. Like the other day I woke up and it was like 2 days after my microdose day, and the next thing I know, I'm making music for 3-4 hours straight. And it's like
Yeah.
it's not even a thought not to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that is so vital during this time, that people should be exploring the microdose avenue.
Yeah. And I mean, if so with how weird the energy is, and like I said in my last video about timelines and all of that, I do think like if you have the ability to, and you're a deeper psychonaut, it'd be an interesting time to do a large dose. But
Mm.
it's just for me personally, I think it would be a bad time. I don't think it would be beneficial. And I'm looking much more to a freedom trip of like, yes, thank God when I finally get to go up to New York and it's beautiful weather and all the trees and flowers and everything's green and stuff like that. I would get much more out of that. So I'm just wait until then,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think a big reason, I well two two reasons regarding psychedelics. I think the microdosing is helping me keep a positive mindset. I'm not really sticking to a schedule. It's more like, that'd be good, pop one, sometimes, day after two, that I had already done it, but and then I might take two on those days. But just with, just work and walking in the woods, like it's great,
Hmm.
I think probably the last two videos I've done, I was inspired because I was microdosing, and
Hmm.
had something to talk about. Um, but the other thing is just like I've really been focusing on my nutrition, and like I think taking vitamin D is like something I from just can't ever stop doing. Like I think
Yeah.
taking a higher dose of vitamin D is super important. I've felt there's been a big part of me that's like that's exactly when I started like stop being anxious about all this too, and started having a
Wow.
better just overall mood. Was when I got the vitamin D in the mail and started taking it, and I've been taking vitamin Z, zinc, vitamin C, um, vitamin A, uh, garlic and oregano pills. So like it's weird. I smell like I work at a Italian restaurant, but um, they're supposed to really help with like your immune system. But it
Yeah.
also, I my job is probably the worst job to have if you don't like ticks, and I have not found a single tick on me this year, and I think that has to do with the oil or the oregano and garlic as well. But that's just a side effect and a benefit because like I was, that was for immune boosting, and elderberry as well. So I think taking all that stuff, I'm just like where normally I'd be like 3 or 4 days would go by and I'd be like, did I take a vitamin? I haven't taken that in a while or whatever. But now it's like a
Hmm.
routine, and so uh, I think that's kind of helping.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been taking zinc, magnesium, um, vitamin C, vitamin D, and then I also take a probiotic, which I think helps. I don't know. I'm big on the probiotic train, so
Yeah, no, they help, but what's interesting is that scientist that was on Joe Rogan, the first scientist he had talk about COVID, like that guy kind of like shit all over probiotics and said they
did he?
like don't really, yeah, that like they don't when they test people like it doesn't really make a difference uh, in their gut biome. Maybe he was talking about when they stop, like it's not a lasting thing, like it's like something where you
Yeah,
have to
it's
just
not
like
permanent.
constantly do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, man.
What wasn't there another tech? Did you say?
No, that was it. I mean, meditation and exercise during this, which I mean we touched on, but
Yeah, I mean, exercise. Like I said, I get out and I walk tons of miles a day. But like if you've got a home gym, like it's a good time to start. You have no excuse now to not do a kettlebell video on YouTube or whatever. I think it's like well, you already used the like rat in a cage analogy. It's the same kind of thing. Like I'm pretty sure that if they put a exercise wheel in a rat's cage, like that rat is not going to become as manic and stuff like that. And it's the same way. Like if we stay active during this time, like it's gonna be uh, beneficial for our mind and everything like that. So if you can't get outside, if you're afraid of walking around and running into people or whatever, like it's time to start some sort of calisthenic routine in your room, or following um, exercise videos and stuff like that, yoga, everything. Like we can't come out of our slumber here 50 pounds overweight and diabetes, right? Like we got to grow mentally and physically from this. So
yeah. Well, and actually that's funny because my brother, who is the one that kind of got me back to the microdosing, was saying now is the perfect time to take less than scary dose of whatever psychedelic you're looking to take because you can walk outside and nobody wants to be next to you. So it's like you have immunity to everybody coming up to you, you know?
Yeah.
So if that's a fear of yours, you're free to roam, put on your sunglasses and go wherever you want to go, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's, thank you for sending that text. And
Yeah.
I think that's great. The more involvement we can have from people, we want to get to having these podcasts live with a scrolling, comment bar, but I don't know. That's really, I don't think there's enough followers now to make that, really worth the technical hiccups we would have to do that. But that is something we want to move towards. It may be something we offer for Patreon and stuff like that. But in the meantime, yeah, we got the number. Call it, text it. Direct our conversation when we have these episodes that are just Stan and I think it really helps. And just further motivates us to keep doing what we're doing. So, thank you for whoever that was that sent that text.
Yeah.
And
anyone
else that's been lurking.
Yeah, it's there's no one on the other line, on the other end. I want to make that clear because that could be my fear. If I were to reach out to a favorite podcast of mine or a podcast of mine, is that, oh, somebody's going to pick up this call. There's no one on the other line. It just goes straight to voicemail. So don't let that frighten you. And texting, obviously, if you want somebody to get back to you, it might take a little bit, but that's another thing where it's all you.
Yeah.
And also, we could do a live episode next time. It's just you and I. Might as well give it a run, or we'll figure it out. But
Yeah,
I have this set up now that I have this set up in the internet now that it would run well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try it, but it's I don't know when the best time. When we usually record, if that's too late for people or too early or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, for the handful of people that I think would like join in on the conversation, I don't know when the best time is, other than the fact that right now everyone's not doing anything. So I guess
might be now. Yeah, man.
I didn't even see how much time are we at here. I guess the one other thing like we could talk about, we mentioned in our last podcast with Kenny, we were talking about like being made for this time, for like a transition or end of society, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I guess I was just confused by it. Like, does it mean that you're okay with not going out and doing the regular thing, or does it mean like you're gonna get ahead of the curve, or like not the curve, but ahead of everyone else during this time? I guess I didn't know, because I don't feel like I am prepared, or I don't feel like I'm made for this, but not in like the I'm scared regard, but just in like I'm not as disciplined at following different passions to get at the end of this, to be ahead of where I was at the beginning, So I guess I was wondering what you meant by that.
So, okay. Yeah. What I meant more by it is that, well, a combination of two things. One, a history of coming out of the last economic crash and the way society was and how scared people were. Which, you were pretty insulated from, correct? I mean, you were in high school, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember it at all.
Right. It doesn't matter. Fuck it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Where I had just bought my first home. I had been transitioning from the counterculture into the you got to get a job and buy a house culture and whatever. And then as soon as I did that, it all took a big fucking shit, right? And reverted back to this like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be in this. What the fuck, And I was like kind of stuck in this limbo between counterculture and normie culture, right? And that caused me. And then The Walking Dead was out at the same time, and I was in entomology classes, and our professor had this whole big long section on quadriceps mushrooms, which take over insects' brains and turn them into zombies, and they basically, meet their demise because of that and finish off the life cycle of the mushroom by getting eaten. And he put this little seed in my brain that this, there could be some mushroom at some point that evolves to the point that it can do this for humans, And then so that little bit of like scientific fact mixed with the sensationalized culture of the time of zombie apocalypse and stuff like that. Like I was like, oh my God, this is all good. This is what's happening right now. I was like, this is like how it starts. Like we all get sick, and then like this is the end of society, And so at that time, I was dead set on making sure that I could live off grid, that I didn't need society. Society could thrive or fall, and I would be fine. And the ones I love, my friends and family, they would be fine as well because of me and my, we would be fine. And so, I just really got into the kind of prepper mindset and like just learned about water, like how to sanitize water to drink, how to hunt and fish and all of these things, to just live off the land. Started to like kind of plan how to get solar panels up in my place in New York, and then just have that as my bug out place that I can go up there. If the grid goes down, it doesn't matter. I'm fine. So I was already in 2008, 2009, already headed down that path, which, not saying that helps now. The combination of that paranoia mixed with the last couple years of our talks and all the others, and all that stuff and all the positivity and the growth I've made from when I quit my government job and freaked the fuck out to now, and realizing like kind of gratitude, the power of gratitude, the power of positive mental attitude, and just understanding, growing as a person, becoming more wise, all that mixed with that background of like paranoia of like, this could all go away and I need to be able to make it work without society, without the grocery store, without the lights, the combination of like the positive outlook mixed with like the knowledge that the paranoia gave me, and the paranoia made it like this. I'm not caught off guard by this, like it's weird for sure. I'm not saying it's not weird, but I'm not like, oh my God, what the fuck? What's going to happen? I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure everyone else is okay. That, either listens to me or knows me or whatever, like I'm not the selfish prepper that's hoarding shit. It's like my whole thing's about building community. I think that smaller communities will get stronger because of this, because of people with that kind of mindset, like I'm talking about. So that's what I feel like I meant by like, I'm made for this moment. Like this is it. We're okay. Whatever the fuck happens, we're good. Whether that's it devolves to the point where people are trying to break in our house, well, we're good there. I can defend us. Or if it's that, something happens and like you can't even leave your city, like the highways are closed off or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm good there too, because then our community is going to kick ass and I'm going to like combine, unify everybody as much as I can, and we're going to get by, we're going to farm, we're going to do whatever. There's no level of how bad this can get that I don't have confidence that like I'm going to be able to handle this, but that's not it. That's 10 years in the making,
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, if I wasn't at the point of all the stuff I talk about and try to get across to people, if I wasn't at that point, I would be freaking out. Yeah, for sure. Like I'm built that way to be anxious and nervous and depressed and stuff like that. But I like, it's just the timing of like everything just builds up that like I have the confidence that like this is okay. The banking goes down, credit card systems go down. It's okay. I've got Bitcoin. I've got cash. I have value. I can do things. I don't need money. So, that's all the stuff. And I hope this is a wake up call. I don't think that this whole situation gets as bad as to where people will need all of that I'm talking about. But I hope it's a wake up call where people are like, shit. Like, I hope that people don't come out of this like, well, I better have more toilet paper on hand. Like, I hope there's a bigger lesson from the preparedness standpoint for this, you know. Um, but it one last. Well, I mean, I don't know. Did you have any other questions?
No, that clears it up, man. I mean,
Oh,
that's kind of what I was wondering is what you were meaning by that. And I guess I was looking at a very like smaller scale of what you were saying. You were saying on the broad scale of like the extremes that you're all good, you know.
yeah, but it's because of what's up here. It's and here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not it's not like I probably don't have enough supplies compared to most people, and I don't I don't
Yeah.
have a bucket of pre-war dimes buried in my backyard or what other preppers like are into. Like I'm not saying that, you know. But like you do need to have a couple months of food like that can't go bad pretty much all the time in your house, you know.
Hmm.
You need either big gallons of water stored away or like I have life straws. Everyone should have that. Like you need to be able to drink water you find. Um,
Hmm.
Other than that, I don't know. I'm not crazy on guns and stuff like that. Like, there's people that and that's all driven by fear and paranoia. And it's like, I think that's the great part is that was the first part of my journey. The second part of my journey was all towards love and light. And so now I'm like in this perfect balance, and it seems like I'm perfectly aligned for this time right now,
Hmm.
because of that balance. Um, and so I wanted to end the episode when you texted about that. It made me remember a very influential character in my life that I had kind of forgot about. Uh, and I know I haven't talked about him. I don't think, but there was a dude in my life right around that time, right? Yeah, probably 09, 010 or 2010. Um, that I was in a band and he just came over with the other guitar player one night, and he had a mohawk, no shoes and socks on, uh, and he sat there and he ate an entire Little Caesars pizza by himself, and like while we were playing and watching our band play, and like I'm trying to think of his name. His name was just like Josh or something, and um and like yeah, the guitar player was like, "Hey, this is Josh. He's just gonna watch us. He's a buddy of mine." And I don't even know where he met this guy because the guy wasn't from here. And so I was like, he probably said where he met him, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, man. Hope it's not too loud for you or something." And then we like practiced for a while, and I thought he brought the pizza like for other people, and so like while I'm playing, I'm noticing I'm like, damn, this dude's just crushing a whole pizza by himself, whatever. And like, so anyway, we got done and we go outside to smoke a cigarette or smoke a bowl or something like that, and I like shook his hand and we're just talking, and I was like, I thought you brought the pizza for everyone else, and he was like, he's like, oh no, man, he's like, I really don't eat like restaurant food ever and stuff like that, and it's kind of a binge thing when I do, and so like I just kind of like crush it. I'm sorry, that probably was kind of rude. Like I should have shared it with people or whatever. But he's like, I just it's it's just a really rare occasion. It's probably the one of two pizzas I will eat all year, and I just crush it. And I'm like, that's okay. I don't care, man. I was just giving you shit. But then I was like, so you just cook all the time, or And he's like, no, man, I live off the land. And I was like, it's just this like conversation that kept evolving.
Yeah.
And so, super long story, hopefully kind of short. But anyway, this guy was a Blackfoot Indian. I He was a tribe up in like Illinois, Missouri area. Does that tribe sound familiar?
I'm just not familiar with the Native
Okay,
Americans
yeah,
around here. Yeah.
I think he was from like Missouri, Illinois area, and whatever tribe is indigenous there. I think it was Blackfoot, but anyway, he so at this time he was probably early 20s. And when he was when he was in high school on the reservation, his dad got into some altercation with a state police officer and ended up killing him. And so parts of the story, I don't want to blow up this guy's spot. I don't know if his name was Josh. That's the name that comes to mind. But if anybody knows a Blackfoot Indian named Josh that lives in the Cincinnati area, this isn't the guy I'm talking about. But anyway, so his dad killed this cop, and they were living on the reservation. They were legit, lived in a house, did all this stuff, but they were full-blooded, multi-generation Blackfoot Indian. And basically because his dad killed this cop, he was like, we can't stick around here. I don't want my dad to go to jail. We got to leave. And they just, from that point forward, broke away from society in general. And they somehow made it. They just exclusively lived in the woods all the way down, and eventually over a couple years ended up in northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. And they would they brought tools with them and stuff like this, but they totally lived like natives, and they made native shelters. They made different hunting traps, and they just totally lived completely off the grid. Okay. And so once this dude became old enough, he wanted to go to what is called the Tom Brown Tracking School, which is a Google rabbit hole that is worth going down while we're quarantined. Start looking up Tom Brown, Tom Brown Tracking School. And it's in New Jersey or Connecticut or something like that. And so he really wanted to go to this because he met someone else. I don't know why he wanted to go to this, but he wanted to prove that he could pass the test to be a teacher, because it's like the Tom Brown School works is like you work in like levels, and basically this tracking school is not just like how to learn animal tracks. It's like to get to the point where you're like metaphysical. Like it's really weird. And that's what I mean by the rabbit hole. Like this guy, Tom Brown, apparently they say he can walk through walls and teleport and stuff like that. That's nice. The rabbit hole. But it's an actual school that you pay to go to and learn how to be a survivalist, naturalist, and stuff like that. And it's pretty expensive. And he wanted to be an instructor because he wanted you go through the levels, and then you get to be an instructor, and you get to create a class, and you teach that class. And that's how the school works. And you have to pay to take the classes and go up. But he was like, I bet that I can test out of the whole thing and be an instructor because of how I've lived. But he had to pay, he had to get there and stuff like that. So he had to get a job. And he got a job at some sort of jewelry making place, something where they were grinding gold. And he would steal gold dust. Every day he brought a Altoids can into work, and he would fill it full of gold dust. And he worked for like a couple years, but every day stole however much gold dust that is. And he had someone, he melted it down, and he made his own gold coins. And because he's never had a bank account, he's never had a job. Yeah. He actually worked out with this jewelry maker of like, you don't need to pay me, you just need to give my family and I an apartment. So then they were living in an apartment, but it wasn't in their name. They were still out of the system. But that's what he was working, was to give this apartment for his parents. So they were getting old, I think it was what it was. And he was like, I don't really like them living in the woods anymore. And so like they got this apartment for free that was under the name of his employer. And the employer thought like, I'm making like a bandit. All I gotta do is just pay this rent, and like this guy comes to work every day. But he was stealing all this gold and melting it down and making these coins. And so he was completely unbanked. And he lived off of gold. When he needed cash, he would go and like pawn one of these coins, and they would weigh it and be like, here's $100, man, or whatever. And so after doing that, he got up enough money to be able to, and then hitchhiked his way to this school or whatever, and he passed. He fucking knew more than all the instructors because he had lived half his life in the woods, like away from society. And so anyway, he told me this story in installments because I was like, dude, you got to come back to, after he told me a little bit, it's like, you got to come back, and it was like for like a year, I was with this dude, and like, I went out, on hikes with him, and he showed me all the like plants, and he was like, dude, I was like, I can't believe you only like eat pizza twice a year and that's it, and everything else you find in the woods. And he's like, man, there's more stuff you can eat in the woods than you can't. It's just that it doesn't register as food to us because it doesn't have cheese on it, and it's not fried, And he's like, but it's food. It will keep you alive and it will keep you healthy. This guy was built like a brick fucking shit house, and he never wore shoes or socks anywhere at all. Like he was like, I also don't eat in restaurants because they won't let me in because I will not wear shoes. I've never worn them. And yeah, so anyway, like that when I met him, he had already been back like from the Tom Brown school. And so I don't know if he was full of shit about that or not, that aspect. But it's a great story if he was full of shit or not anyway. But I mean, he showed me these gold coins. The gold part was right. Like he stole enough gold to be like unbanked for the rest of his life. And but his philosophy about like, he's like, I don't, even though I'm living in an apartment now and my parents are living in an apartment, we hate it and we won't like be there much longer. Like we miss, living with nature. And he's like, it's interesting because nature knows that you're a part of it after a while. And he's like, he said, again, it could be bullshit, but he said that he can like walk up on deer and they don't run away, and he can like pet them and stuff like that. Which the Tom Brown school people say too. That's like the final test is like if you can sneak up on a deer and like touch it, like you're a professional tracker at that point or whatever. But yeah, it was like his philosophy started getting me thinking like, okay, I need to know how to eat and drink regardless of the fucking situation. If I'm the last person on earth or right now living in a suburb, like I need to have that information. That's important to me. I'm not going to live in the woods. I like living in a house. I like having central air. Like I wasn't like inspired by his story to want to like totally be a survivalist or whatever. But I was like, my fat, frail, pasty white body needs to toughen up a little bit. If there's another human that it can do that for his whole life, I have no excuse to be like, afraid of the grocery store being closed. Like I need to be able to support life no matter what is going on, and to have the knowledge to do that. And so yeah, I spent a ton of money on books. Because that's the other thing. It's like, don't just watch YouTube videos and stuff. You need this stuff written down, because if you're talking about preparing for a grid going down situation, like you need the information there. So it's like, I recommend everyone get wild foraging books. And
any suggestions?
Yeah, there's 2 books called The Forager's Harvest. And those are really good. They're really good colored pictures, and it focuses on just like 10 plants in each book, I think, or well, maybe more than that, but it focuses on really small amounts that like you'll find this anywhere, you can eat it. Dandelion is one. We how much money is spent killing this thing that is really good for you, actually. A lot of weeds. A lot of weeds are weeds because they were plants that were brought over from other parts of the world as food or medicine. And people stopped using them as food or medicine because pharmaceutical companies became a thing. And those plants were just overrun and then they just became weeds because there's no pest to keep them in control. And so they just became weeds. So that's what dandelion, garlic mustard is another one that is everywhere. It was a food and it was a medicine at one point, and now it's just a weed. And it's an invasive species that there's government budgets to get rid of it, but it's a food and it's a medicine.
Yeah.
So yeah, he got me on a real anti-society counterculture vibe of like, people are great, government and society and the grid sucks and it makes you all a slave. And that like living in harmony with the earth, living intentfully, and every day you wake up to be like, how am I going to stay alive today? What am I doing to stay alive? He said by doing that, like that's how you're actually free, you know? So it was again a hugely influential person in my life that only lasted a year, and he may have been completely full of shit. Like I said, you know, I'm not telling this story like this is true because it may not be. He may have been some fucking punk rocker, but like he backed up everything that at least in my interactions with him, you know. I didn't catch him on any lies or anything like that. It just sounds crazy because like it's hard for us to be like, wait, you didn't have a laptop or nothing, you know. You know, it just sounds crazy that there's people that live like that, but unfortunately that's and this is what he said is that like there's a lot of Native Americans that did that. Yes, in the Civil War time, you know, as white people took over the United States, yes, they killed a lot of Indians, but a lot of them a lot of them just went into the woods and they're waiting for the dull. He said his term was the dull gray masses, and I don't know if that's a common thing that Native Americans say or whatever, but they're just waiting for the dull gray masses to you know finally kind of go away, you know, and then they'll have their country back, their land back. But it's like you know there's a lot of for as much as we want to feel like cities and stuff and humans are overpopulating, there's a lot of just complete fucking wilderness. And, you know, that's what he was saying is that there's just a lot of Native Americans are just still living in the wilderness because they know how and they don't need all the shit we have. They don't need to live on reservations. They don't need to live in cities. They don't need any of that, you know? And if
That's
you're
amazing.
if you're in a big enough spot of wilderness, like nobody's going to fucking see you, find you, you know, they'll think you're a fucking weirdo or Bigfoot or whatever. And like, it makes a lot of fucking sense, you know, and I believe that's true. I'm not saying I want to do that. Like I said, I'm just telling this guy's story and how he influenced my personal philosophy, but
That's amazing, man.
yeah, I forgot to tell that story. I was going to make a video about it. And then when you texted me about, you know, how I feel like Mayfair, I was like, oh, fuck, I've never told that story about the Blackfoot Indian that crushed an entire little C's right in my face, you know?
That's great, man. So, okay, so I wrote down the name of that book, and then also I've been wanting to get a life straw. That's important.
Yeah, everyone should have a life straw. I mean, you can
Yeah.
drink out of the goddamn dirty puddle, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the other, this virus situation doesn't seem to affect water, but
Yeah.
imagine it did, and they were like, you gotta be in your home. Also, we ain't pumping any water into it. Good luck. You know, like we're gonna drive a truck by, and you know, you can get water out of the truck every Wednesday. Like that would really like people ransacked toilet paper this time around. Can you imagine what would happen if there wasn't gonna be no water? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone needs a life straw. It's a good company to support too, like because they donate a lot of their money to
And it's cheap.
Africa.
It's not like they're like price gouging or anything like that.
No, and they have a water bottle that you can just fill up, and it like you don't have to drink out of the puddle. Like you can fill up the water bottle, and it's got the straw in the middle.
Oh, okay, nice.
I think it's like it's the same cost as like a Nalgene or something like that. It's like $30 or something. Well, I mean, it's a no brainer to get that, but
yeah, sweet, man.
Yeah, that probably took up a big chunk of time there, so we'll wrap it up with that. But yeah, again, you know, anyone who's been lurking and is like, I'd like to hear him talk about this or talk about that, you know, definitely you know, give that number a call. And it was good to have that text, like I said. And also, yeah, so the London Real Army, you know, check into that, see if you support this, see if you can spread that hashtag. I think it's a good movement to really show Google and YouTube, like, stop fucking taking stuff off that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's really important to have free and open media and freedom of speech, and I would hope YouTube could be that a proponent of that, but if they're not going to be, like, we need to let them know that we'll find another way, man. As always, thank you for listening to the Help Find the Others podcast. Please don't forget to check out our Discord server to connect with our growing community. The link to join can be found in the description. And if you feel like donating to our channel to help us grow, a link to our Patreon can also be found in the description, as well as some cryptocurrency wallet addresses. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast or have any questions about these topics, please email helpfindtheothers@protonmail.com. If you would like to leave a voicemail or a text message question for a future episode, Stan, what's that number again?
567-233-1335.
Okay, guys, thanks again. And until next time, let's help find the others.